Hey everybody, thanks for checking out my latest video. Hi peeps. I'm going to go over here the DraftKings ReignMakers and DFS results for week 12. We had the big Thursday Thanksgiving games, and we had a full Sunday slate, then we had a Sunday and Monday. I'm just going to go over some of it really quick, mostly focusing on the main slate and also some of it with the DFS, what happened, looking at lineups, totals, results, stacks, buys and sells analysis. I'll probably be doing another video not until Saturday, so this sort of covers the showdowns on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday. I've been doing the sort of the data dump of DFS projections and sort of like that, what I like. I've been doing that on Sundays, and it takes a couple hours to do it, and I really haven't had time to adjust my lineups properly and get my lineups in after I get that done, and I haven't even been getting that uploaded until like between noon and 1. So I'm going to try to just do that on Saturday. And then so Sunday morning I can work on my own DFS lineups and make ReignMakers adjustments as needed, because I couldn't even actually get all my ReignMakers adjustments lineups in this weekend. So, the information could be a little bit outdated, though, because always injuries and last minute things are going on. So the showdown games this week, we have 2 buys, Arizona and Carolina. And for some reason next week, I think we have 6 buys. I'm not really sure why it shook out that way. Maybe something with holidays. The showdown games this week are Thursday night, Buffalo at New England. Buffalo -4, the total 44. Sunday night, Indy at Dallas. Indy +11, total 44. And these are going to change, but Monday night, New Orleans at Tampa Bay. New Orleans +3.5. Total 40, game total 40. These are the game totals. That Buffalo one is awfully low. There may be something going on with injuries of Josh Allen or something going on I'm not aware of. But it looks like they're basically inviting the public to bet on Buffalo there, which possibly a dangerous sign. I'm not really sure what's going on there. That looks low to me. I thought that would be 6 or 7 points. So, again, using this premium DFS projection site that I've used all throughout the season and passed on some of their information to you. And of course, theirs does change as things go along. But for ReignMakers showdowns, currently these are the chalk lineups in alphabetical order and the totals. So on the Buffalo, New England, they have Allen, Diggs, Mac Jones, and Stevenson, projecting up 72. And so of course that doesn't include an MVP. Which one you pick as the MVP. On the Indy Dallas, they have 3 Dallas actually: Lamb, Pollard, and Prescott, and then Taylor. And then on the New Orleans Tampa Bay, they have 3 Tampa Bay: Brady, Evans, Kamara, and White. Now, of course, Fournette is, I think, uncertain whether he's going to play this weekend or not. The only showdown they have up with salaries on there currently is the Buffalo, New England. And just wanted to mention some of the ones they have really cheap salary that they have scoring points sort of in order of potential values. Now, I wouldn't say they've been particularly great at giving me like showdown cookies, which is the type of thing I call those low-priced ones that you can stick in. I wouldn't say they've been particularly great. I mean, I don't think I've done that great at showdowns this year, but they have pretty good projections overall. So keep these in mind. Thornton at $400, Shakir at $200, Gilliam at $200, and Strong at $200. And that's their showdown salary. So I don't think they have the salaries up there yet for those, at least on this site. So I'll go through ReignMakers here real quick. On the main contest, which again was Sunday only main slate, the biggest one is the core Fiat. That was one with a total of 161 points. This was a week of you had to have Josh Jacobs. I haven't looked at all the totals of what every player got. It's actually it's not that easy to find like what DraftKings total for every player was. At least the site I used to use doesn't have it. So it would be nice actually to just have an easy place to look at what last week sort them by points and position. So if you know that, put it in the comments. But anyway, Josh Jacobs was far and above everybody, and you basically had to have him to hit big in contests. And overall, there weren't that many players who actually got like 20, 25 and above. There really weren't, as far as I was looking at. So it was again another week where sort of quarterback wide receiver stacks didn't do that well. And not just for running quarterbacks. So this has been something to keep in mind, is not to be so fixated on those, even quarterback tight ends. And sometimes this week was sort of one of those weeks where just sticking in good players also in DFS. So here they had Lawrence, Chubb, Godwin, Wilson, Jacobs. They did have Chubb and Godwin from the same game, but no other connections. On the rare, they had Lawrence, Chubb, Hopkins, Godwin, and Jacobs. Again, Chubb and Godwin from the same game. And you can see the totals. Now, this person, Ricky555, they're fairly large. ReignMakers player, they have a floor, according to LuckyTrader.com, they have a floor value on their cards of about 20,000. They own nearly 800 cards. NLW is a fairly small player. I'm sort of around that size, a little less than that. And I played the rares, and they won 10,000 NLW 5. So that was a nice hit for them. Of course, this is just like what the current Lucky Trader showed the last time I looked. And again, just like good players. Lawrence was an under the radar play, but in general, like these were sort of like good players. Wilson was a one that was projected very high earlier in the week, and he was projected as a really good value earlier in the week on DFS. So I did have several of him, but by the time that Zach Wilson was announced as not starting, I was more uncertain. Anyway, the week 12 big money one on ReignMakers. Of course, there was the $1 million one on Thursday. I already did a video about that, and a whale won that. And the big elite fiat, when I saw this name Jay Seal with 13 entries, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a whale. I think I had actually had him on my whales video too, or he or she. But either way, I had heard the name. Maybe they won a bigger one early this year. I can't remember. But they have floor value on cards of 330,000, nearly 1,000 cards. But they did win 100,000 this week with a very low total below 150. Here they had Murray and Eckler from the same game, which that was projected a high-scoring game. So that's a pretty logical. A lot of times on the elite level, it seems like they're a little more, I guess you could say, what's the word, crafted lineups, especially on the deeps. Because people have their serious money into it, and they may not have that many cards, or they're just more strategic. Eckler, Waddle, but you needed that Jacobs, that him getting 20, 25 points. Godwin had a big week too. Not that many quarterbacks came in, not that many, etc. And a low tiebreaker there of 130. On the deeps, which finished up. So there were so many good players in the Thanksgiving games, and I did 3 or 4 lineups and didn't cash in any of them. But what you needed to do was a good idea would have been for me to use those in the Showdown or in the deep slate, but I just figured for fun I'd put them in Thanksgiving. But the one who won the deep one, they had Hurts and Sanders from Showdown. Again, Jacobs and Lockett, same game. I think that's it. That was 219 points. The rare one came in. They don't really have a stack that I see. I don't think they even had a stack. Oh, no, they had, Tua with the Miami kicker. So that's just sort of like a good players one. And who knows what they threw in from Showdowns. But this person has a floor value of about 4,750 cards. This person has a floor value of about 13,600 cards. The Deep Elite, which pays 10,000. Won by a fairly, if I updated that information, I may not have updated that correctly. I apologize if I didn't. But a low total below 200. This was a low scoring week in general, even with that's weird, even with the Thursday. But they had the Allen Diggs Davis, so they had multiple. I think this might be wrong. This might be a bigger player, but I could be wrong. So either they didn't play this in the Thanksgiving contest, or they had multiples. So they had the Allen Diggs Davis, which was projected very high. Again, Jacobs. That St. Brown was from the Thanksgiving game as well, which was a high shootout game. And then they had the Vegas Seattle one. So those elite deeps tend to be a little more strategic. The points to cash, 90 points on the core fiat, a little bit higher than last week, but around 90, 88 again, 88 versus 83, 75. That had a bit of a jump. The deeps, this is getting brutal. I mean, I had a deep that was like 115 rare and didn't cash. It's up to 127. The core is very easy to cash in at 100 points compared to 90 for a 5-man lineup. And this is a 9-man lineup. And the elite deep remains very difficult to cash in. A lot of good lineups there. 139 points needed. The winning totals. Hopefully I updated this all correctly. I did this fairly quickly this morning. 162, another medium week, not too hard to win, not a huge total. Another week of no main stacks. The 1-1 means like from the same game. So 3 weeks in a row, I believe the core fiat, which is the largest entry contest, was won by no stack. On the rare, I believe no stack also, not even a game stack. I have to double check, but 154, very low, or low, I guess you could say. The low either means chalk didn't come in or not many players put up big points, is what I would say. I think low is generally better for the smaller players, but on the deep, oh no, I'm sorry, on the elite, the big money one, that came in at 148 with no stack, but it did have 1-1 in the same game. I believe that's the lowest, the lowest since the early weeks of the season. 2 low weeks in a row. The core deep, 220, 219, sort of on the lower end as well, especially considering those Thursday games could have been used. And they had a 2 and a 1-1, I believe. So my results, I had another like okay meh week on this and on ReignMakers and DFS. I'm looking at my cashes. I had a rare fiat came in at 100, that went 25. I had 2 core fiats cash 106.94. 2 core deeps come in over 100 that cash. Deep bankroll that came in at $5. I think I nearly got one a booster pack because I end up doing a lot of core deep lineups rather than core fiat because I have a lot of kickers and tight ends and just a lot of meh players that probably should be sold. And so I end up putting them in these going, well, I'm getting $5 back out of it possibly. Of course, should I sell the cards for $5 if I can get them is the question at this point. Core Showdown, that was the Philly game. I did not cash. Or no, wait, did I cash? Yeah, I only cashed for $3 getting 111 points. I mean, the chalk came in and I had a pretty chalk lineup, but that's frustrating, I had Jalen Hurts. I can't even remember now, but I had a pretty high scoring lineup. Another core showdown, I did cash it as well. Anyway, this added up to about $54. Adding that to my tally for the season, that was sort of like an average week, I guess you could say, up to $1,390 returns plus tons of cards and very profitable overall. And there's all these weeks left, plus there's going to be a whole lot of playoff weeks and contests. So still time to go. But, card prices are on the slow decline, which is sort of logical. It's almost like they should degrade a little bit each week. And then, as far as the carryover, I think there's speculation about burning cards going into next year. Maybe you can burn 3 cards and get 1 new random card type thing. So keep that in mind. I mean, maybe dumping cards at $1 isn't a good idea in that case, although that I have been doing that in some cases. I basically set a bunch of limit prices a few weeks ago and haven't lowered them. And every time I get a new card, I basically put a sell price in. I need to probably lower my prices again. I hate to get out of my rares though, because there's less competition overall. Anyway, I was just looking back at what I bought and sold. I think these are the furthest away. This is since the 24th. And again, these were all like ones I had already put in. A Cook got bought, an Najee Harris. Cooper for 13. That was a good sell because these are cores and the green is rare. Carter, a Herbert, and more from the Jets, and Trevor Lawrence, so $46. Then I looked at what I had bought, a Matt Ryan for $5. That seems very cheap. A P Ryan for $3. That was good, especially for last weekend. A Foreman for $2. A Carter for $2. So it's like I bought one back a lot cheaper there. A Robinson from the Redskins for $9. A rare. That looks like a good buy. McKinnon for $2. And then I actually bought back a Herbert because I was scrambling. I had 2 Zach Wilson starting and a Herbert sold, et cetera, et cetera. So I ended up with lineups. I had a Jamar Chase going, so I didn't even have time to adjust all my ReignMakers lineups and do all my DFS. So I had some basically sort of dead lineups, and they might have gotten back $3, but I ended up buying back a Herbert. But the funny thing was, this is like a 400 serial, and this was 47,000. So basically the same price. And I sold a little more than I bought. I'd like to buy, but then there's the whole question of the carryover to next season. If I knew there was going to be extra carryover, I would be buying. It would be a good investment in my opinion. It depends on what they're going to do. They need to incentivize the current players to keep their cards, buy more, and not dump them all. Except exceeding the whales, because the Rainmaker cards they need to I think there's things in place, and there are more contests coming up. They're gonna have holiday, Christmas stuff. I'm sure they're gonna have giveaways, etc., etc. They already have the sweater contest. So let's go over the DFS real quickly. Now, I won a big DFS contest a couple weeks ago. It was like a bolt of lightning. Um, and I can't expect to do that every week. And I use a wide variety of strategies. I was sort of working on a video of like my DFS principles, I guess you could say, or ideas and concepts. And it actually brought back home to me one thing that I don't do well enough is track how various strategies I'm trying are working. And then obviously you want to go with the ones that are working. And it's sort of like when I did a lot of stock market trading and option trading. And I did a lot of educational video webinars and stuff like that, and newsletters and things like that. And we would sort of talk about, don't beat your head against the wall, or like, if this technique's working, stick with that. Don't keep trying. If like you trade Tesla, you don't trade Tesla well, don't keep trading Tesla. But if you do trade this Amazon well, keep trading Amazon type thing. Same thing with that. But so and I don't want to sound like excuses and sour grapes and all that. I'm sort of trying to do a post-mortem, really, is what this is, because you're never going to be able to be like, oh, I should have had that exact lineup, particularly this week. So the one that won the contest that I previously had won, which is like a $3 DFS one that has 20 entry max and ends up with about 395,000 entrants, pays $100,000 first prize. So it's a good sample size because it's a very, very large contest. The one that won that this week came in at 219 with Kyler Murray, Josh Jacobs, James Conner, Higgins, Godwin, McLaurin, Njoku, Akins, and the Dolphins D. You can note how low Kyler was, how low Jacobs was, really. 4%, 6%, Conner around 10, Godwin around 9, Akins less than 1%, and the Dolphins D less than 5%. Jacobs had a fairly high salary, but that is low. Kyler is low, in my opinion. And the Dolphins D is low. They had a high salary, but just on a logical basis. They were playing Houston at home. He was in a high-scoring game. He was projected very high, and he was coming back, and he's always been sort of underrated this year, in my opinion, as far as the DFS points guy. So the only stack they had was the Murray Conner, which is not. I would not call that a good combination, or I would not call that one that you would logically want to play a big stack of, because Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown was back as far as I know, plus Hopkins. Plus, the value of Conner should get hurt in general when Murray's in there. I don't think he targets him a lot with passes, but nonetheless, it did work out very well. And Conner was looking to have a really good week if Murray didn't play. Higgins was a good, Godwin. These are all like solid, good players. The Akins one's a little out of left field, but let me show you some analysis I did on this. Okay. So I'm trying to track, and this is why I said I'm not going to be doing the videos on Sunday morning anymore. I need to be more organized. I need to look at my exposures and lineups and what is in them a little more than I have been. I do it, but not to the extent. Some of the pros do 400 lineups, and they know. But some of their lineups are spit out sort of randomly. I don't like to do that. But I did a video on Sunday morning, right before, but it ended up being uploaded sort of like, I think, within an hour, half hour of the game starting. So people don't have a lot of time to digest it. I didn't have a lot of time to digest it all and implement it all. But that's primarily based on the DFS premium projection site that I use, and I do like a data dump. And the post-mortem is why, or could you have had Jacobs more? Because he was the key to the week, and he would have led to big catches. So the point being is, of really all this is, he wasn't out of left field. So when the video I posted, the top chalk ReignMaker lineup had Jacobs. He was projected by them at 13% ownership at a 7,700 salary. He only came in at 4% ownership. I think this was big part of the problem why I didn't end up getting him more, because I was looking at ones that were, I was focusing on adding ones that were under 10% or lower owned. They had him as their third-ranked optimal running back. That means, counting salary, running simulations, he came in the winning lineups third of all running backs. They had him as their second-ranked leverage running back behind P. Ryan, who I believe came in pretty good. And so right there, because I had mentioned a preview, this is like where they're saying this guy, we have this guy coming in optimally more than the public is buying him. And they even had him at 13, so they had him pretty high. But it was I highlighted in green the ones that were like the most leveraged. So it was there. It was there. Not saying if you did like one lineup, you would definitely have them, but if you do a variety like I do, you wanted a good amount of exposure to him, even at a higher salary. Because a lot of the players of his similar tier were sort of like 8,500 salary and higher on DraftKings. FanDuel, I may do some more work on going forward. I need to put some more money into my account there. He was the 4th ranked value running back, which means straight up like points per salary by them. He was on the DVP running back list, which I compiled and posted on there and just sort of ran through super fast, meaning like the Oakland running back or the Raiders running backs on a DVP basis versus Seattle had a good matchup. Also, obviously, that was a high scoring projected game, which was a lot of fantasy points for people. He was also on the ones I like list, which is at the bottom. Now, there were a lot of names on it, and I just sort of rattled them off really fast. And he wasn't on the one, like, he wasn't highlighted as like a super I like, partially because they had him at 13% ownership, which is wrong. I mean, they don't know for sure, and it changes. Like, they had, they didn't have one of these running backs that came in as high as they had Walker high. I can't remember. They had Walker or Wilson. One of the running backs came in like 20% higher than they had thought. So it's possible a lot of people diverted their ownership from Jacobs at the last minute to some of the other bargain running backs, depending on who was in and out and types in. But every player on this winning lineup was actually on the long list I did on the Sunday video, which you can go back and look at. Every player on the winning lineup was on the long ones I like list. I'm not saying I'm a super genius. It was a long list, but it included Akins. And my list is primarily derived from their projections. But I also look at other things. Anyway, so let's just take a look real quick. I ended up doing 37 DraftKings lineups. I would have liked to have done more than that and been better organized on Sunday, like I said. So that'll be why I won't be doing a video on Sunday morning. Because the week before I had done 40 to 60, probably closer to 60. But I ended up doing all right. I did all right on ReignMakers and DraftKings. Anyway, so here's where the public came in on them at. So I looked at 37 lineups and what was my exposure. Of course, only having somebody once actually gave you like a 3% exposure because, like, 1 into 33 basically, or 3%. So I actually did have Akins once, but that counts. I mean, 1 out of 37, and that was above the public. The Dolphins D I only had once. That was a horrible play by me because they were on my list, and I keep talking about diversifying your lineups. And this is the kind of thing where if I was a little more organized, had a little more time, go through, okay, what defenses do I have? You can have this automated as well. Should have had them 2 or 3 times, even though they were expensive. But the green ones mean I had them more than the public. So I had Murray more than I actually had Jacobs more than the public. I had him 8% of the time. This is not a real on a number basis, but I had him. I had Connor more than the public. I had done lineups on Thursday or Friday, and I didn't really change those. Then I did a bunch on Sunday morning, and actually the Thursday lineups I think ended up doing better because I had a lot with Connor in them that I ended up not doing any when I found out Murray was playing. It was underweighted on Higgins. Goodwin about the same. McLaurin a little underweighted. And Njoku overweighted. Akins, just having him made me overweighted. Having him 1 out of 37 maybe. And Dolphins, I was a little underweight. So I looked at what I had actually owned the most. And obviously, the other big thing besides Jacobs not coming in that big was the Miami stacks. And that was due to them pulling out the Miami starters before the fourth quarter had even started, which is, it used to be extremely unusual in the NFL to do that. And if you look at the game, Houston actually got back to within 15 points and had the ball. So it actually is a mistake to do that in the NFL. You want to rest players more than Bill Belichick does because he tends to not take players out until there's 15 seconds left and risks them all getting injured. But that trend of doing that, because NFL players are all good. All teams are good. And they get pissed off when they see that happen. And Houston went down and scored twice right away. All Miami players weren't playing, basically. But nonetheless, that coach of Miami, who I'm not the hugest fan of, I question him as a person, but he's a good coach. He took them all out. And that sort of killed the two Hill and Waddle. They got decent points, but none of them went off. And they all very likely would have if they had kept the pedal to the metal late into the fourth quarter. But nonetheless, and this wasn't just me, they were very highly owned, players in general. So the largest players I owned, the most owned by positions, were Tua, Walker, Seattle, Wilson, who was a big play on Miami, Hill and Waddle from Miami. And also remember, the Miami stack and the Bengals stack have come in multiple times this year. And I didn't own enough of them. So maybe I was overcompensating here. Cortland Sutton, Njoku I really liked this week at his salary. Rachaad White from Tampa Bay, and the Chiefs defense. These were fairly chalk plays. Surprised Tua and Hill and Waddle weren't actually higher owned. Sutton wasn't. But these were everybody was on Walker, Wilson, White, and the Chiefs. So looking at it, the ones I had too much of, and clearly would have gotten off of some of them if I was more organized and could have gone through my lineups more on Sunday. And you want to be able to make changes too with the game when the game's approach. Where Walker at 49%, I would not want any fucking player at close to 50% personally when I do 37 lineup. There is no way. So I was just spitting in lineups and he was just fitting in and putting in blah, 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 blah. No. And if maybe a few of those would have gone to Jacob. So I had him on like 18 or 17 lineups out of whatever, 18 or 19 lineups out of 37, probably 18. So maybe a few of those would have gotten diverted to Jacobs. Who knows? Wilson too high. I didn't want him at 35. I really don't want any player that high. Cortland Sutton, there was no reason why I would have wanted him in 20% of lineups. There were other wide receivers. And I liked, that should say Godwin, not Goodwin, right? I liked all these players. And as you could see, I owned them all in varying amounts. So that one, no. I mean, the two of the Hill and the Waddle is understandable, and I think they would have come in. But these percentages are way too high. This is from not being complete. Njoku, fairly high as well, but there were not, and I do say get like one of every tight end, which I kind of do. One of every cheap tight end that has a chance, which can often be like 10 of them. That one also possibly a little high, but Rachaad White too high. There's no reason to have this, in my opinion. Chiefs defense way too high. I had even mentioned that this was the chalk, and it was such a heavily chalk defense, and defenses are fairly random within reason, and a lot of them can come in, and that can make a big difference. You're getting like 20, 15 points from a defense. There may only be one or two that do that week. No reason for me to have that. This is just my post-mortem on myself. You could see that none of these players actually, though, completely flopped out. They all got double-digit points. The problem was none of them got over 20 points. So they all did all right, blah, blah, blah. White did pretty good. And, the Miami stack was disappointing. Wilson was, he's part of the Miami stack, obviously. Sutton didn't even do that bad. And Njoku did pretty good because a lot of the tight ends didn't do well this week in general. So weren't terrible picks, but, they needed them over 20. There weren't that many players who got over 20, 25 points this week. So anyway, that's my post-mortem of that. I'm not trying to make excuses, but basically Jacobs was there. And anybody that I'm sure other people's projection sites had Jacobs high, even on a value basis. So they're really, I guess I should have said people should have had Jacobs more than 4%. And that's probably why they had him projected at 13. I should have had him a few more times. He was the key to this week. And obviously the Miami stack disappointing was sort of a big key as well. All right. That's it. Like I said, I'll do another video likely Saturday. About the Sunday main slate games. Thank you very much for viewing my videos, liking, subscribing, and commenting. And you can sign up for DraftKings under that referral. You can sign up for SoRare. So another thing, I've been really, into the World Cup and got it on right now. So that may have taken a little of my attention away from DFS a bit. And the USA beat England. I've made a couple. I made a sort of a satire uh, World Cup video. I've made couple chess videos. I've gotten into playing chess lately. I basically am at home, so I don't really. I basically work from home, so to speak. And the so I've been playing chess, and that's been kind of fun. And I really like this one guy's video, so I did a couple parodies of those. And he does super clickbait titles, so I did super clickbait titles. I'm like, he does them, and he admits it. I'll do whatever I want. It's fun. That's why this is called the Not So Narrow Cast, because really don't like to narrowcast. I don't want to just say, oh, I'm only going to do a DFS. I'm going to do it, which I might. I may continue. Like I might start doing more NBA and stuff like that when it's over, or at least trying to give people some premium information that I have. But the NBA is brutal because you got to be there like right at 6:45 and ready to make changes because those fuckers are good. And if a guy's starting and they're projecting him, 25, 30, 35 points, 25% of the field, 30% of the field will have them like that. And if you don't have them, a lot of times you're screwed. And FanDuel is even harder, in my opinion. It's more smart money. I almost feel like it's bots at times, but Yahoo does have bots, or they did bot entries. So I haven't done Yahoo in a long time. Actually won 5,000 on a Yahoo contest a long time ago. But all right, that's it. Have a good one. Let me know if you had any nice hits this week, and let's make some money on Thursday night game and this weekend, and go USA in the World Cup.